The Divine Council is an assembly of ancient deities presided over by a higher-level god. The Divine Council was attested in the archaic Pantheons. Ancient Egyptian literature also reveals the existence of a synod of the gods. A complete description of the Divine Council or Assembly is recorded in the literature of Mesopotamia. The Sumerians, the Sumerians, the voice, the gift from God, Zu, Mary, Anne. The Sumerians used the term Okin to describe the concept, and in later Akkadian and Aramaic, the term was Puru. Archaic Sumerian. One of the first accounts of the Divine Council appeared in the Lament of Ur. Here, the pantheon of Anunnaki was led by An and Ninhursag, but also Enlil, appearing as leading members. According to Professor A.H. Sayers, the role of Molil was taken over by Zu. The name Enlil was actually a later variant of Mul-Lil. If Zu took the role of Mul-Lil, then logically, the later role of Enlil is actually that of Zu. Zu, Mary, Anne. Mul-Lil also had a female variant, which in fact was himself in a female role as Mulmi-Sarah. This may be no different from Ninhursag and Enlil and An. Zu, Mary, Anne. But don't forget that Anu and Zu are both the god of the illustrious mound. An means sky, but also eagle. Adding the letter U to An gives us sky waters or eagle waters, and is regarding a flood storm weapon, which yet again is flying high above the two. The Memetim, angels of the Lord, have the very same role. Anzu is also known as Sha'ur and Shargaz, the cat's eyes, Scorpio's stinger, and above all, the heavenly Mitum mace. Mitum, Memitim. They simply flipped the word and swapped the vowels. They bent the light. Akkadian is led by Anu, Ninlil, and Enlil. Yet again, I see the eagle soaring above the two roles that were previously given to it. Tuwit-Tuwu. The polymath Athanasius Kircher said it best. The Cynocephalus, the wicked ibis, the sparrow hawk, wrapped in its beaky mask, and now delighting in its virgin aspect. Zu, Mary, Anne. Old Babylonian. In the Old Babylonian Pantheon, Samas or Shamash and Adad chair the divine council's meetings. There is more work to be done here, relating to Shamash and Anu, connected to the oracle's tower, the Tower of the Voice. Ancient Egyptian. The leader of the ancient Egyptian pantheon is considered to be either Tahut or Ra, who were known to hold meetings at Heliopolis. Tahut is actually Ra's personification, and Apep was born from his umbilical cord as a consequence of Ra's birth. The two enable the third. Yet again, the Birdman soars above the pair and is the balancing force between the two. The god of wisdom, Tahut, is the author of the Book of the Dead, so this should come as no surprise. The name Tahut in Coptic can mean icon form, division, or death. The Hebrew angel of death has 3 methods of execution attributed to him. I will guarantee that those 3 methods were used against the martyrs amidst the month of Tahut, which I rename the month of martyrdom. Together with Ra, Tahut becomes an angel of the Lord, a son of God, a physician of the gods, an Azu, and a voice of the Lord. The Book of the Dead is also a commandment. The Temple of Tahut was a large temple complex located in the Arisino Nome of Sinai. Mount Sinai is renowned as a principal site of divine revelation in Jewish history, where God is purported to have appeared to Moses and gave him the 10 Commandments. But it was not God, it was Malak, the angel of death, Mal, bad intent, Ak, appearing to man as God. Divine revelation and the divine storm bird. The 10 Commandments can be read in 2 ways. Many of these works are mirror-based, meaning the words could easily be the opposite of what they state. Take the word not away. Let us not forget that Moses was an Egyptian warlord and possibly mythological. The biblical figure Moses is nameless. Moses simply means son of. Moses was a physician. The ancient Sumerian word for physician is Azu, meaning one who knows water, a plague expert. And there were 10 plagues of Egypt, possibly referring to wormwood, la'ana, turning the waters bitter, which can also be achieved by the hand of man, with a little divine inspiration. Babylonian. Marduk appears in the Babylonian Enuma Elish as presiding over a divine council, deciding fates and dispensing divine justice. Marduk sent Anzu forth to destroy the land. Anzu means divine storm bird. Do you know of another figure who has divine as part of their name? There can be only one. First, there was the divine storm bird. Divination linked to the divinity, the divine council, divine justice, related to the winged deities, and the pantheon that falls from it. Canaanite. Manuscripts from Ugarit give a detailed description of the divine council's structure, in which El and Baal are presiding gods. Baal Zephon is the angel and founder of Rome in its mythological beginnings. Hebrew Israelite. In the Hebrew Bible, there are various descriptions of Yahweh presiding over a great assembly of heavenly hosts. Some interpret these assemblies as examples of divine counsel. The Old Testament description of the divine assembly all propose that this metaphor for the divine world's organization was indeed consistent with that of Mesopotamia and Canaan. Zu, Mary, Anne. One difference, however, should be noted. In the Old Testament, the identities of the assembly members are far more obscure than those found in other descriptions of these groups, as in their polytheistic environment. Israelite writers sought to express both the uniqueness and the superiority of their God, Yahweh, the Lord of hosts, the host of heaven. The Book of Psalms states, God, Elohim, stands in the divine assembly. He judges among the gods. The meaning of these two occurrences of Elohim have been debated by scholars, with some suggesting that both words refer to Yahweh, while others propose that the God of Israel rules over a divine assembly of other gods or angels. Some translations of the passage render God, Elohim, stands in the congregation of the mighty to judge the heart as God, Elohim. The weighing of the heart. The Aztec order of the plumed feathered serpent also weighed the heart. Elohim. The Hebrew is Bakwerev Elohim, meaning in the midst of the gods, and the word Kwerev, if it were in plural form, would mean internal organs. That is almost identical to the god of wisdom, Tehut. The internal organs in ancient Egypt were read as oracles. Ancient Egyptian mummification preserved the body for the afterlife by removing the internal organs, but weighing the heart creates a problem. In this ancient Egyptian belief, if you did not have your heart, you would become a demon in the afterlife. It is Tehut who judges the heart. Back to Elohim. Later in this psalm, the word gods is used in the King James Version. I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are the children of the Most High. Instead of gods, another version has godlike beings, but here again the word is Elohim, Elohim. The passage is quoted in the New Testament, in John 10:34. In the Book of Kings, the prophet Micaiah has a vision of Yahweh, seated among the whole host of heaven, standing on his right and on his left. Micaiah asks who will go entice Ahab, and a spirit volunteers, an obscure spirit. This has been interpreted as an example of a divine council. The first 2 chapters of the Book of Job describe the sons of God assembling in the presence of Yahweh. Similar to the term multitudes of heaven, the term sons of God defies certain interpretation, and some have interpreted this as another example of a divine council. Other scholars translate sons of God as angels, and thus argue that this is not a divine council, because angels are God's creation, and that they are not deities. Remember, this is an interpretation. There is no way they can be sure. The role of the divine assembly as a conceptual part of the background of Hebrew prophecy is clearly displayed in 2 descriptions of prophetic involvement in the heavenly council. The first is Micaiah, who is allowed to see God in action in heavenly decision regarding the fate of Ahab. The second is Isaiah 6, which depicts a situation in which the prophet himself takes on the role of the messenger of the assembly, and the message of the prophet is thus commissioned by Yahweh. The depiction here illustrates the important aspect of the conceptual background of prophetic authority. Divine inspiration is parallel with demonic possession. The author is the angel of death. Chinese. The Jade Emperor's deities were sometimes referred to as the celestial bureaucracy, because they were organized like an earthly government. Organized government, a system designed broken, a broken system. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. That would be chaos. Celtic. In Celtic mythology, most deities are considered members of the same family, the Tuatha Dé Danann. Family members include the goddess Danu, Brigid, Erimid, the Morrigan, and others. In the family, gods include Ogmar, the Dagda, Lu, and Goibinu, again among many others. The Celtic people honored many tribal and tutelary deities, along with the spirits of nature and ancestral spirits. Sometimes a deity was seen as the ancestor of a clan and family line. The leadership of the family changed over time, depending on the situation. The Celtic deities do not fit most classical ideas of a divine council or pantheon. Lu. The mighty Lu was a 13th century installment, the true history of Britain. The real history of Britain was wiped clean by Saint Bede in my local region. A great reset. Saint Bede rewrote the history of Britain, or reset the history of Britain, starting from the time of Caesar, making Julius Caesar the final protector of the Druidic traditions. Et tu, Brute. Saint Bede, however, translated Hebrew scripture into Old English, namely the Gospel of John, which was mentioned earlier, containing the heavenly host. Prior to writing this history, his story, a mysterious plague wiped out most of the population in this region. The angel of the Lord was here. Most of the 8th and 9th century texts of Saint Bede's Historia come from the northern parts of the Frankish Empire, France. The work of Saint Bede was written in Britain, and then copied, multiplied in France, meaning that in my region there was nobody left to protest the new history of Britain, and only the Frankish nobility would have been able to read. Written in Britain, but established in France, then accepted by later generations. This is not an isolated case. Ancient Greek. Zeus, and Hera preside over the divine council in Greek mythology. The council assists Odysseus in Homer's Odyssey. Ancient Roman. Jupiter presides over the Roman Pantheon, who prescribe punishment on Laocoon in Ovid's Metamorphosis, as well as punishing Argos and Thebes in The Bade by Statius. So the punishment of Jupiter is lycanthropy, the werewolf, the wolf, the dog-man. In Sumeria, the bird form is a curse, and in Greek and Roman, to be made a wolf is a curse. The punishment of Jupiter and Zeus can be described as being bitten by the wolf. Greek and Roman, the cherub and the lion-faced god. They were copied by order of Plato. Berossus, a priest of Bel Marduk and astronomer who wrote in Koine Greek. very similar to Saint Bede, in fact identical, simply change the names, time, and place. The Norse work of Snorri Sturluson was written in Iceland, but then taken to Europe. The Celtic installation of Lugh appeared around the 13th century, possibly with a similar history surrounding it. In fact, there is the Plague, a great reset. Norse mythology. There are mentions in Gautrek's saga and in the enumerized work of Saxo Grammaticus of the Norse gods meeting in council. The gods sitting in council in their judgment seats, or thrones of fate, is one of the refrains in the Eddic poem. Voluspa, where a thing of the gods is also mentioned in Baldur's Drow Mar and in the Skaldic Host Long. In those poems, very similar to the heavenly host, in the context of some calamity. Snorri Sturluson, in his Prose Edda, referred to a daily council of the gods at Uthor's Well, citing a verse from Grimnismal about Thor being forced through rivers to reach it. However, the word rain, in some occurrences of rain thing, it may be simply an intensifier, meaning great, as in the modern Icelandic, rather than indicating a meeting of the divine council. But of course, Ragnarok means reign of the gods, or reign of darkness, where the great Fenris wolf appears and swallows Odin whole. In the end times here, the wolf will reign supreme. The Egyptian god Tuhut, in his early days, was closely associated with the Great White One, the White Anubis, the Wolf's Moon. The Sumerian king, Lugalbanda, Zu, was king in 2050 BC. In Iceland, 2013 AD, Zuism was recreated, so by 2050 we may see the Akkadian times once again. As above, so below. Meaning we could be reliving a mirror-based reality. And if you understand the plan, you become a prophet. 3 and 7 equal 10. By 2050, the reformed Zuism will be 37 years old. There you see the mark, which is 777. One must add the hidden one, who is thrice great. Zuism means to know. Now you know. There is information attached to the Sumerians, indicating that the troops from Palmyra were Scythians, and they would be among the 84,000 people who were killed by the angel of the Lord, fighting with the Assyrian army. Please hit that notification bell, share, like, comment, and subscribe for more ancient mystery.